Namaste and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. Sat means truth, Logos means a study or science, Sattology means a science of truth, a study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology. Myth means a fake lie imagination, and mythology means a study or science of fake lie imagination. Understand that mythology destroys your identity. So anything that you try to do, like even defending a nation, you cannot do on the basis of mythology. You all know the fact. So ancient history is directly connected with our current success. Ancient, medieval, it builds up the mindset. A lot of people, they keep telling me, and a lot of people write articles, beautiful articles they write, in fact, and very much based on tactical knowledge and near-term strategic interest. Near-term, I say, which can be good for next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. But when we talk about Sattology and build our foundation on a long history, then we're talking about long-term success also. I have very, very special guest, a researcher, Muni, Swami, what do we call him, teacher, Acharya. So let us welcome Shri Nilesh Oak.
Namaskar Aditya ji. Good morning to you.
Namaste and good morning to you too. It's still morning over there.
Yes.
So, did I say anything wrong? You heard my introduction that how the history defines our identity, and people say that ancient history is too old, nobody has seen it, but everything goes into our psyche. It's in a gene pool. Isn't that a science?
Yeah, that is a science, and some of the other potential objections or perceived objections that you stated, such as ancient history is too old and nobody knows about it. Well, that is directionally a fact, but you can also say that if somebody takes a position that because it's ancient we cannot know anything about it, that is frankly true about everything that is happening now. Meaning, honestly, we don't know much about yesterday. And when we say that, people will laugh at it because they said, well, there is so much video recording, the news anchors, the TV stations are recording so much stuff. So much stuff comes out in the newspapers and magazines, and politicians talk about it. But there is that gap between what actually happened versus our perception of it, and then what people say it out. People meaning that can be a news anchor, it could be somebody who is analyzing the situation, it could be a politician, it could be anyone, I mean any one of us. And so what we are trying to describe is our perception of it. And so nothing is free from this bias, and the fact that the bias exists by itself is not a problem. Many people think that's a problem. I don't think that is a problem. That's when something like a data science comes into picture. Okay, now the data science is not like a magic wand that it can answer the questions, but it puts all of us on a guard, like that until it goes through a certain level of scrutiny, we don't accept it. And even when we accept it, we accept it as a conjectural truth. Like, see, if you look at our Nyaya Darshana, I mean, not just Nyaya Darshana, sorry, all Darshana Shastra of um, Sanatan Vedic tradition, Darshan Shastra of Hinduism, what we'll call, or Hindutva. these days, people are confused, with the word Hindutva. Hindutva Darshan Shastra, because the Hindutva means what? Being that, being, like living it. So somebody maybe even oneself may be proud of it, or the person who is outside the fold may not understand what Hinduism means, what Hindutva means, or confuse the hell out of it, as many academics do. The fact is, this is something not to be speculated. I mean, speculation is a starting point, but this is something to be experienced firsthand. And if you don't do that, it's not going to take us much distance. So yes, I mean, people can have objections, but then they have to do something, Aditya personally do something, if they are truly curious to know about it. I mean, just speculating from the sidelines, speculating in general, like Ramdas Swami says, Anuman. I mean, anuman is an inference, but in this particular context, it's a speculation. Uh, it is actually counterproductive.
Yeah, many new, like for example, the the leftist academics, most of them are Marxist and other things, and left in many ways. Like there is no philosophy which is absolute. We say achinte bheda bhed,
Hmm.
simultaneously one and different. So the this is the mental orgasm of of these academic professors.
Mhm.
Hindutva is bad, Hinduism is good. The Hindutva is bad, Sanatan Dharma is good. So this is the political narrative going on.
Yeah,
Zionism is bad, Judaism is good. Like
there you go.
they're themselves killing themselves with these kind of topics.
Yeah,
So so because I know the reason they want to get dollars from the
yeah,
aid
yeah,
and create some fake research so that their department can be funded by the
yeah,
grants. This is
yeah,
what is exactly going on.
yeah.
What is your view on this?
Oh, yes. I mean, that is correct. And what happens is someone who is a nobody, literally by creating a controversy, suddenly they come into the limelight. And as you said, now they can write for the grants. And he says, well, this seems like an interesting subject. And then those people, I mean, organizations, you can say, or who are looking for attention, meaning anywhere there is attention, people say, this is a perfect place to advertise my product, or use that particular individual, who has created himself or herself as a controversial figure. It is good because people generally tends to like these negative aspects, right? Which is to say, something crazy. I mean, you can see that on YouTube, social media in general. Like everyone is trying to compete, or outsmart the other individual in doing more stupid things, more crazy things. And this is part of it. And I was going to say academia is not protected from it, but I would say academia is like on the forefront. Especially the humanities departments are very much on the forefront. And in fact, today's what? Yeah. So tomorrow, in few days, I'm going to have a conversation with few individuals on something similar. Now, Adityaji, that time it is not so much about the typical academia, but actually questioning in our internal tradition. And the point I want to mention, and I'll stop on that, is like you said, the leftist or the postmodernist, the whole utter nonsense, like anything goes, that is there, but their effect in a different form. They will change the names like a chameleon, I mean, they will call leftist, socialist, communist, postmodernist, post-truth. They can give whatever the name they want. Anytime finally their game is out, the game is open, and people understand the nonsense and stupidity of it, they will just give a different nice name and start the same nonsense under that name. And but let's not discount the harsh reality. Let's not discount the severe damage they do. And this damage is not for just one particular community on one particular organization. I see, say, our whole Indian tradition, like say last 100 years, possibly last 200 years. I don't know how long we have to go back. Uh, it came through sort of a colonialism. If I would imagine that there might be some ingrown tendencies right inside our culture and civilization. For example, I'll mention two. Take Buddhism and Jainism. Now, they contributed a lot in many different good ways, right? Having said that, they also, I mean, any new package, any new sampradaya also comes with its limitations, because when you go for dissecting something, you also lose something. For example, Buddha did not want to talk about the Atma. Not that he did not know about it, but he said his crowd is not ready for it. Or to take everyone into account, Vardhaman Mahavir, or you can say Jainism, it came with a Anekantavad. okay, or sadavad, this is true, not true, this can be true and not true, this is neither true nor false, something like this. And it has created, see, to a certain extent it has a utility. But if somebody takes the anekantavad of Jainism or sadavad in the sense of anything goes, then that creates a problem. Many people in our tradition unfortunately understand anekantavad or sadavad in that fashion, very similar to like a postmodernism. That's not what anekantavad is. And many Jain thinkers have critiqued such an interpretation of anekantavad. And I'll tell you why that is important as we talk about today's subject, which is a you can say Hindu data science.
Now, people ask me a lot of questions about Afghanistan and Pakistan. What is your viewpoint on that? Now, again, the history goes, the history says now Hindu data science here. Now,
okay, well, the Hindu data science, that's a good one. Actually, that I can talk, because if you ask me the contemporary, what is happening right now and what are my views on it, I would say what I will say would be a subjective blabber, frankly, because I have not spent time. I mean, it's my deliberate choice not to spend time on certain current events. It's very obvious why they are done. I mean, there is a perfect agenda, like the way America pulled out of it a specific date and whatnot. But what the narrative they're going to tell people through the briefings and press briefings and news portals, I mean, these are all purchased, and it's going to be different. So that is one reason I find it very boring and tiresome, frankly, although it does affect our lives. But you said what comes from the Hindutva data science, let's say. So data is what? I mean, data science can be translated, and it still won't be a good translation, I would say, in this case, because we have lost the original meaning of the word Sankhya, which actually is correct, which is the Sankhya Darshan, right? Sankhya Darshan is like a analysis. It's a vislation. It's a vislation, like, like Ishopanishad says, Prajapatya Vyuha Samuha, Prajapatya Vyuha Samuha, meaning if you want to understand something like Prajapati, like creation of a Srishti, you want to understand something, you have to dissect the things first, do the Purva Paksha, and then you assemble it together, okay, like a ekikaran or unification or samslation, that is the word. So Vyuha Rashmin and Vyuha Samuha. So that is said even in the Ishopanishad, which is part of Yajurveda. But I'll take you back to the Afghanistan very specifically. If history can teach us something, like where the US administration, not just of today, but of last 20 years or possibly last 50 years, from the Cold War days, if they would have read the Mahabharata, or if they would have read Valmiki Ramayana, they would have got so much intelligence, so much wonderful information. They would not have bothered to do what they did. Now they're doing it for their very selfish gains, like how to make the money move, but I'll not go into that. Which is to say, I'll give two instances, not so much details from the Mahabharata, because there are some Shaptaka, like some Shaptaka warriors, and we don't know the exact place. It appears to be from Afghanistan area. Very fierce warriors, I mean, they're not fearful of death at all. Do you happen to know the area of some Shaptaka that Arjuna has to fight? Correct. And these are extremely fierce warriors, right? They're fighting from Kaurava side. But that's why I don't know the exact details. But now let's go back to Valmiki Ramayana. So Mahabharata, 7,500 years ago. Valmiki Ramayana, let's go back to 14,000 years ago. And when Sita has been taken by Ravana, see, this is what data science is, Sankhya Shastra. There is that information. You have got that information into there. You got the information. I mean, in Ramayana, you also have that information coming repeatedly in even Upanishad. Like somebody getting Gandharva, like I don't know what's the right word, but you being possessed by some spirit. Even that was referred to as a Gandharva has possessed you. You get that reference in Upanishad.
That's right.
Very interesting. And then Mahabharata. But in Valmiki Ramayana, when Sugriv is sending his search party for Sita in 4 different directions, and one party goes in the west direction, he is very specific, very categorical in telling the Vanara party going in the western direction, which went. They did not go as far as the Alps, but Sugriva describes as far as the Alps or as far as the west coast of Spain. That how far he describes the geography. But we don't have to go that far. As they are going in the west direction, he says when you go through this mountainous area, and he refers to Gandharvas, which is that Gandhar, which turned to Gandhar to Kandahar, which is Afghanistan. And he says, as you go through this area, don't disturb, don't even think of taking fruits and any vegetables, whatever, from these gardens of the Gandharvas. Okay, they're extremely fierce. They will fight with you, and they will waste your time because you have to search for Sita. So just bypass them and just move on. So this is a 14,000-year-old history. Like just recently, when this Taliban is taking over Afghanistan, so I was talking with someone, I don't remember, and that person said, so what do you think, or stuff like that. And I said, well, we have at least 14,000 years of data history. I mean, secret files, on Gandharvas, so why not pay attention to it?
Very valid point, because most of the people are just reacting and getting surprised what is happening. But that region is known to be like that for a very long time. Mahabharata has recorded it. When Nakul goes to the west, Nakul also crosses through the same region.
Yeah.
Even the path is described. They say, go close from the shore and cross and go north. Like this is how you reach Kandahar. And which is exactly today. And same thing is, so actually Nakul went through the northern, today's northwest Pakistan. That's where it went through. But Hanumanji, the Sugriv's armies went through the south, Somgiri. They crossed Somgiri.
Yeah.
And
so possibly Africa also, right? I mean, who knows?
And they went through south, and they see all the islands, and we have already discussed it. The water was way lower. A lot of tapu will be there, a lot of islands will be there.
Yes.
So many of the Indian armies have crossed very easily all over that region. And in fact, Nakul used to get taxes from there. Subal was the father of Shakuni, who was ruling the place.
Right.
And so the point is that the ancient data points or information is still relevant today to make the strategies.
Yeah.
It's like nothing has changed, as if like Ramayana, Mahabharata time, nothing has changed.
Correct.
The only difference between Ramayana and Mahabharata is Ramayana, Sugriva doesn't want to waste time. Yeah. But in Mahabharata, Nakul wants to collect taxes. That's it. So he engages with them.
Yeah. Or the social or cultural practices, of how they behaved, between the two groups, communities, let's say, like as a tribes, they will call tribes is again Western reductionist invention, but how they were interacted and so on and so forth, how their relationships were, how the marriages took place, or gender relations. That also you can find as far back as say Valmiki Ramayana and possibly before. Absolutely. But Valmiki Ramayana, we have a timestamp. In Mahabharata, if you remember the discussion between Shalya and a Karna.
Yes, right.
So Shalya is coming from a Madra area, which is that area again. And Karna, the whole discussion, right? Like Karna putting down the practices in a Shalya's area, which is a Madra Raj, And if you look at again Madra and Kuru, so we have this Dakshina Kuru, which is what the Pandavas and Kauravas are. But there are Uttara Kurus. And this connection was there 7,000. See, that's another totally digression. But the Kurus are there communicating, connecting 7,000 years ago, 14,000 years ago, 22,000 years ago. And what is that nonsense of Aryan invasion that these idiots are stuck in? Right? Right? Amazing.
And see, all this information, it ties to today our genetic mindset also, isn't it? It's like we think like that.
True. See, that was another point. Sorry, I cut you there. That is another point Aditya ji came. by the way. When just recently that discussion happened after the Taliban took over, and we were talking, hey, what do I know? I say, well, I don't know what is happening today, but I can tell you what was happening 14,000 years ago and how that is even relevant. But the one thing I just mentioned as a humorously, I made the comment, and sorry, I'll give it back to you, which where I said what you just said, genetics, and it just triggered me. Because that's what I said. I said, well, what does that tell you? Is that the mutation is not a very fast occurring phenomenon. The same thing is still existing. Sorry, go on.
The another aspect is when they say Bharatiya बहुत महत्वाकांक्षी है, they're very ambitious because it's in your genes. You have ruled the planet.
Yeah.
You cannot take it away. Like even if Japan is there, you cannot take it away from them. It's in their genes to rule that area of China.
Correct.
They've done it historically. Like before the Chinese state came into existence, before 1949,
correct,
or whatever the independence they got, whenever 1946 or maybe, Japanese were actually controlling the economies of South Korea, North Korea, and Japan and China.
Yeah.
It's in their genes.
Yes.
Similarly, it's in the Indian genes to think big.
Yeah.
Yudhishthira has come here, Sri Ram has come here, Krishna has come here, and they all have conquered the planet.
Yeah.
What do you have to think on that?
Well, and everyone has a different strategy. For example, India has always done it. That doesn't mean there were no wars and stuff. I mean, we see the Dasharatnya war and Mahabharata and Ramayana and all that. But India has done predominantly as a culture, as a culture, that is the priority. But that is not to miss what we describe beautifully when it comes to Bhagwan Parshuram. Shapadapi Sharadapi, Agratas Chatvara Veda, first we go with a culture because that is the civil way to do things, right? But when there are miscreants and totally individuals with a very low intellect who cannot understand it, then also Shastra, right? Agratas Chatvara Veda, Pashyata Sasharam Dhanu. Then there is a Dhanusha also, and then there is a Shara and Shastra also. So yes, I mean, many people will misunderstand because they may just simply look at India of last 200, 300 years,
That's
which
right.
has really been, totally zapped out of all its resources by the British and colonial powers. Before that, the very offensive Islam, very crude kind of attacks on India, for repeated attacks for 1,000+ years. So say it maybe India for 1,500 years or maybe 1,000 years, and somebody if makes a judgment about India based on last 1,000 years, they are going to be surprised, because this has survived, and this has survived not only on the civilizational virtues because they are there. In fact, see, that is the burning point. That's what burns the backside of many anti-India academics. They don't see what is the sustainability of this, and they must be getting really mad now that the yoga is becoming, the world phenomenon, the meditation, and every so-called modern science cannot progress further without referring to the ancient Indian science. So it must be really making them burn in their chairs, in their small offices.
Yeah, and especially when they say Hindu data science, they will be like in flames right now. But we have the data points in armies. Maharaj Ranjit Singh said very simple thing. I'm doing it for dharma. He said it. And he made in the Lahore Jama Masjid, he made a shoe house. And the armies were eating over there inside what they have done now to Indian temples. So the point is that we have done it. We have done it again and again. And what has been told to us by Max Muller is that is a foreign country. It's a lie. It is a land which always belonged to this country. Ramayana has examples. Mahabharata has examples. Now the modern military political planners and political strategists, they can take this information, it's a data science, and build on it. Like, for example, the Arjuns travel to the north. He did not go straight up. It's all mountains.
Yeah.
He went a little bit northeast, went into the valleys, then came back, and then went all the way west to KK, north part of KK, and then straight up to Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
So
Even Vanara party, Sugriva's instructions are also like that too.
is also like that.
Like, it's almost like, just as I imagine, he says, go from Saurashtra, from
Yes,
Saurashtra, they are going up first. So he mentions the mountains, but he's not necessarily asking them to go through the mountains,
that's
so
right.
like bypassing the mountains and
That's
uh,
right.
stuff like that.
Even Dakshini Disha se mountains cross karo.
Yes.
And then pay respects because Somadev lives there, like the
Yeah.
Shivji lives there.
Yeah. Sindhu Sagar. I mean, he refers to Sindhu Sagar, the what we call Arabian Sea today. He's referring to Sindhu
Sindhu
Sagar.
Sagar. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we talk of data science, I mean, Hindu data science, what you, that name is important. See, now I wouldn't have thought of it because um, as a humanity, we are all connected. Okay, so there is no point in calling something like the Nazi, they had a Nazi some Nazi chemistry or something like this. It doesn't make sense. But I am using Hindu science. I mean, today I'm going to use that word in a very specific way, because what happens, I mean, I'll talk about my data science background. I mean, anyone who gets up and starts understanding the world gets into data, but we are talking a data science, Sankhya Shastra, which comes from a Sankhya, by the way, the Sankhya Darshan, it's beautiful. But people have lost the original meaning of Sankhya.
That's right.
Like we literally think it's just numbers, it's not numbers. Okay. It is a quantifiable truth, or understanding the world in a quantifiable way. And that's a Sankhya actually collects, captures the essential meaning of what we understand data science today. But I'm going to make a claim that even the sophisticated data science that we do today, and I'll give you some examples from my practical consulting work, we use it again, unfortunately, in the Cartesian and Descartesian, I mean, that's this whole reductionist way of understanding the science. But Hindu data science can actually provide many deeper insights, which also doesn't leave anything outside the realm of data science. Okay, so let me share a slide so it may be easy to talk about it, instead of me just verbally talking, people trying to see what does that mean, what is he talking about. So let's go here. All right. So I'm just going to share 3 slides, that's not much. Okay, so Hindu data science. And if there was a way I could have turned that into a Hindutva data science or Hinduism data science, I mean, what utter nonsense that people are doing. It's just beyond my imagination. But in a way, not beyond our imagination. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Sattva, Raja, and Tama. And there are no immediate equivalents in English. So that's why I hesitate to translate. Usually they're translated, you are familiar with it as mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. But that's not a perfect translation. Tama also has a value in the right context. And same thing with the Raja, and same thing with the Sattva. It is not like Sattva is only one should do and Sattva is good and Tama and Raja. No, these are they work together in combination, and many grantha actually talk about it. This is not to be seen as a good or bad. This is to be seen as their appropriate location, appropriate timing. But let me go to the data science aspect now, just to bring everyone who is listening to this on on the same page. Now, everyone is, if you are a student, if you are a researcher, if you are academic, or whatever walks of life that you are involved in, if you are living, if you are working somewhere, if you are running your own business, if you are doing certain kind of research, some professional, you are going to come across this data. Okay, that's there. And it's not a rocket science, although some snobby individuals would like to make it as if it's a very complicated thing. Okay, and I would say many times the business schools are, to be blamed for that. Will try to make as if something is a big complex, but they are not completely wrong, because the same data, in the hand of a wrong person. So, for example, we know the story, and Tulsidas ji says in Ramcharitamanas in a very interesting way. Now, of course, he's using that as a metaphor. But Rama gave, or Sita gave Hanuman something very precious stone, right? And Tulsidas ji or some other people have said, oh, he just started biting on it as if like a vanara in the sense of a monkey. No, that's not what Hanuman was, but that's a different story. It's a metaphor. The point is, in the wrong hands, it may not be effectively used. And that's what I want to show, why people should understand Hindu data science, or if they are so possessed of the word Hindutva, then actually those people who are stuck with that word and don't understand it, if they take to data science, much of their ignorance will go away, but I don't think in this lifetime they are capable, or they will have a sadbuddhi to get there. But just to give a background, it's very simple, right? So if you want to use data for ascertaining something, for identifying something, for analyzing and drawing a conclusion, you have to define with the goal, like, why am I doing this? Okay, or what is my objective? In a Vijnana Buddhi of a Darshana Shastra, it goes by different names, but it is called Nishchay. Like, what is your goal? What is your objective? Or in Bhagavad Gita, we'll talk about it as a Adhishtanam Tatha Karta. What is your objective? What is the purpose? Okay, so there are different words used, but you can here use the goal. Then we have to define the specific problem. We have to explore and write down all the approaches that are there to be solved. Then you have to specify your approach, why you are taking it. Even if you don't mention why you are taking that approach, at a minimum, you should clearly mention which approach you are using, even if you don't want to explain why, or even if you don't understand why, whatever it is. Then to solve that problem, what theory, which is to say, what's your framework, under which you are going to analyze this data. And you have to also state, sometimes it is implicitly assumed, what are the background assumptions. Okay, what things you take for granted. That is not to say that you have to always stay with those things as taken for granted. But in data science, one of the important thing is that we call the principle of orthogonality, like 90-degree angles to each other. I mean, this goes back into geometry and bit of mathematics, so I'll make it simple. But two factors, if we are trying to study the effect of two factors on the output, we should study those two factors in such a fashion that the effect of this factor, when studied to the best of our ability, it is studied independent of the effect of other factor or other factors. And that is the principle of orthogonality. That also applies here. It applies beautifully. That is what it says. See, that's why, therefore, if you go to Nyaya Darshan, what is the process? It's like a do loop in our computer language, like a subroutine. So you look at one evidence, you go through the whole cycle of the Vijnana Buddhi, 11 principles of dissecting, sequencing it, associating it, doing the Indriya Pramanya, like objective testing, then being a devil's advocate to question it, then bring it together. Like I said, Vyuha Rashmin, Vyuha Samuha, bring it together as a unification and draw the inference. Like, what is it telling you? Then you go to the next one and the next piece of data, and then you go to the next piece of data. It is, in fact, it is understood with so much intuition in our Darshan Shastra that they don't even talk about this. I mean, it's implicitly understood and it is clear into the sutras, but it's not very detailed. It is not said in a detail as much as we will see in the modern data science courses. Now, what you do, once you have that, you collect the data, you validate, you subgroup, you dissect the data. Again, remember, Vyuha Samuha. You have to dissect in a certain fashion. We call it specific groups, like a special cause variation versus common cause variation, and so on. And then you analyze that data. You infer an accurate solution. Now, this is where the Hindu data science becomes very important, Adityaji. Okay. And I'll tell you the difference. I mean, I have, I'll tell you my background in data science too, when I get to that slide. But what a frequently occurring, or what can you say, frequently, the mistakes that are done frequently, and people are so much brainwashed into doing a certain way that it is very difficult to explain them. They say, why? And I'm saying, well, it's very intuitive, first thing. I mean, if you are asked to do the data analysis and you're considered a data analyst, You should have known this. But if it's not known, something that you should have learned 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I mean, I may not always have, as a consultant, luxury to explain that every time. So then I said, take it on the Shraddha. Just trust me, do this and don't do that. Okay. But I'll talk about this. So inferring accurate outcome, a solution, or how to refine the solution, it needs something that I am convinced Hindu data science provides, the foundations of Hinduism or foundations of Hindutva provides, that is missing in the modern disciplines of data science. That is not to say it's completely missing, because there are these exceptions. They do magic out of this data. But for the masses, they don't even get it. Okay. But they might have the degrees, they might have bachelor's, master's, PhDs, they may be in academics teaching data science, but still missing that point. And that's what we will talk about. Then you want to test the solution for the robustness or the sensitivity analysis. And again, Aditya, you'll be amazed how much snobbery will come. And don't think that the snobbery comes in North America. In fact, North America is very straightforward. You will find people will not, there are exceptions, but most of them are very hard realist. They will go, the snobbery you can find in India. I mean, the business schools are extremely snobby about it. I mean, I went to a business school here and I learned a lot right here in Atlanta to Emory University. Having said that, when somebody asked me when I was done with my MBA and says, so what do you think of it? I don't know if they like the answer or not, but I gave the answer, which is to be truthful to myself and my experience. It was a phenomenal program, like the modular executive program I did. The value came from, of course, knowing the professors and the discussions that occurred with them actually offline, in the sense outside the classroom, were more useful than what happened in the classroom. But the point is, I told them, out of like whatever the 30 courses, I don't remember the exact number, I would say 4 or 5 courses is what was important, because that was my gap. And so that's my point. Many people who might be into data science should listen to this for the gaps that they will find based on what they already know. They might know how to use SAS and how to do a significant data analysis, but that skill can actually become a problem if you don't have the overall look for it. So let's go there. And then, of course, you analyze for outliers. I mean, this is just to bring everyone on the same page. Everyone knows that these are the steps. We evaluate the effects of the outliers and factors beyond control on the solution, like a Taguchi designs. But for example, evaluating effect of outliers, that very principle, some of you may know this as a stepwise regression, just as a simple concept to understand how we see the effect of outliers in the data, but also how we see the effect of the potential variables on the output. In our Purva Mimamsa, like Jaimini's Purva Mimamsa, okay, describe this in one line, one sutra. And I think, discussed it before. So Darshan Shastra is extremely powerful if anyone wants to deal with a data science. And then, of course, we present the solution and then test the solution via its predictions. That is the final ultimate litmus test. Like whatever you have done, now, are there any new predictions? And can you test those predictions? And when you actually try to test it, what actually happened? Did some of them come out true? These 3 steps must happen for your new solution, new outcome, new theory to be revolutionary, to be something dramatic. Okay. So this is our triangle for visualizing this. Now, a number of you who are watching, you would have seen many similar like Venn diagrams for data science. For example, in the 3 circles, sometimes you will see business knowledge, business intelligence. In some corner, you will see statistics, knowledge of statistics, somewhere business intelligence, somewhere something else, like use of programming, use of computers, like ability to program, like a SAS knowledge. That is all true. My point is, those are all required. And in fact, I will put all of them, or almost all of them, into this Tantra Yukti. So typically, if you see a popular chart, and there are many ways that these are done for data science, usually you will see with these 3 overlapping circles and that. But what they describe as a statistics here and ability to program or ability to do the data, big data analysis, and then understanding of the business, I am, just pay attention, I'm squeezing them all three together. I'm not saying they're not important. They all three are important. But frankly, to me, they all go into this one circle, one corner of the circle called Tantra Yukti. Okay. The Tantra Yukti, like how actually, for example, you look at the data and you say, which test is going to be good? I mean, should I do the analysis of variance like ANOVA, or should I go for a regression? What is the nature of my variables? Are they continuous, discrete? What kind of combinations do I have? What is my historical data? How can I data mine it? All of this goes into that one corner in this diagram, the Hindu data science, into that one third of the entire thing called Tantra Yukti. Okay. And then we are still left with two things. One is a Tarka Shastra, because Adityaji, I see this time and time again, and I just, hit against my head, not visually, just in my mind, because as a consultant, I can't always do that in front of my clients, but they will do the very good analysis, but when it comes to drawing the inference, they will make big blunders. And it's impossible to correct them many times, impossible to correct them, because they are so convinced of their ways. And then, all you have to do is a smile and say, well, yeah, let's try this out and see. And then it many times, I mean, sometimes they may be lucky, many times it doesn't go anywhere. And then we are back to square one. We wasted a lot of time, resources, and money. So Tarka Shastra is very important. Like, how are you drawing the right inferences? And then Vijnana Buddhi. Now, some of these things, it cannot be built overnight. Honestly, I will say, for example, to be good in this, or if you are hiring people, you have to also almost as a shraddha, as a conviction, whether you emotionally believe it or not, you have to trust the punarjanma, the reincarnation, that our atma goes through different bodies, like we change different cars, because some things, they cannot be even acquired in this lifetime. Now, you can do more tapasya in this lifetime for future, but some things might have to come from the past. And I'm telling you, this is based on my 20 years of experience purely in the data science. Now, of course, as anything you do, you use data. But say Lean Six Sigma, if you have heard these words, I got into it. I started in 96, but as a fully dedicated to this subject, I started in 2000. And out of those last 21 years, 12 years or so are fully into this field of data science. And so somebody immediately said, do you know SAS? And no, I actually don't know SAS. And it's very important to know SAS or many software packages. Of course, I know few. But I actually consider that I don't know too much of a programming as a gift, because then because of my limitation, I'm not into blind data manipulation, such as what we call neural networks. Now, neural networks also has its value. Again, I'll put that neural network into Tantra Yukti. But in the absence of a Vijnana Buddhi, the scientific acumen, and in the absence of Tarka Shastra or logical reasoning, actually this can be a lot of waste to businesses, corporations, to original research in Indology, non-Indology, science, chemistry, medicine, everywhere. Medicine also, that's a problem. See, they are so much like pharma industry we can talk about, where they are more interested in giving exotic and new names to certain disease or certain health conditions, rather than being busy to solve the problems of humanity, like what do you call Kshudha Abhishastu, like the curses, like some infections and whatnot. They're so busy giving names to these particular conditions. Anyway, now so these are just names. So Vijnana Buddhi, yes, they are there in this language. So we can say, is that a Hindu data science? Well, yes, but there is a equivalent word in English, right? Logical reasoning and scientific acumen. So that's not what it is. But now I added 3 words there. Okay, I added Sanyam, Seva, and Satyam. So when you are doing an analysis of the data, why are you doing it? I mean, other than you are an employee of a certain company and you are doing it, or you are a researcher and doing certain study, but do you have that attitude of a service? And good thing is, this attitude of a service as a concept exists in all world religions. So that's not a problem, right? So everyone should understand that. So it's an attitude of a service. That's very important. I am doing this to make the humanity better, okay, for the service of humanity. If that attitude is not there, now not many people will believe this. They say, hey, when I give all the data and all the programming to a computer and use the neural network as a framework to come up with multiple correlations and then use the best of the correlations. This is something I have dealt with possibly 5-6 years ago, and I was just like hitting my head and saying, how do I convince these folks? I will not talk about the specific industry I was doing this almost like 6-7 years ago now. And what they were doing, which is great, extremely powerful computing power that they had. They were running these neural networks and coming up with impressive correlations. And I said, that's good. So neural network has a value. But now that out of like 500 different correlations that the computer prowess has built, and now based on a certain criteria, you have decided to select say 30, now go back to those 30 and analyze them. Okay, which is going to taking help of the Vijnana Buddhi and Tarka Shastra. So see, design thinking. So data extraction and classification is done. Okay, that is good. That also requires Tarka Shastra and a Vijnana Buddhi. But guess what? This particular place, they were using neither. In fact, they were just giving the total raw data to the machine into this Tantra Yukti quadrant, so to say, and just say, hey, spit it out and tell me which correlations has a p-value less than 0.05, less than 0.10 or something like this. And just they were ready to go and implement. And I was saying, my God, I mean, how do I convince them? The problem is, so seva is one important, which was also lacking there. It was more like, let the computer do the thing. No, I mean, computer is a dumb machine. It's very powerful, but it's dumb. You need the Tarka Shastra, you need Vijnana Buddhi. And what does it bring? It brings Sanyam. So Tarka Shastra brings Sanyam. And let me put few more words, okay? These three things are related to us. So for example, now we are into robotics, right? And what are we trying to do? We are trying to bring the human intellect, in some sense, the human perceptions, I think it will come with the human prejudice too. Okay, human emotions into that robot. Okay, emotions in the sense of ability to learn and interpret and so on. And it can sometimes may turn lethal. Okay, only the time will tell. But human beings have turned lethal. Okay, I mean, we know about the Nazi, and right now the very oppressive mentalities of certain religions and whatnot. But see how beautiful it is combined into the Hindu data science or Hindutva data science. So when you think of a Tarka Shastra, like logical reasoning, it is the area of a mind that is the mana at the top. Why mind? Well, it also requires Vijnana Buddhi, it requires a Buddhi, but the predominance is of a mind, because if the mind is prejudiced, mind already has a dogma behind it, already has a solution in mind, already has a conclusion in mind, then the logical reasoning will not be proper. Okay, it will not be done in a Sanyam fashion or a Samyak fashion, that is to say, in a balanced fashion. The person already has a solution. I see this when I got into the dating of Mahabharata and Ramayana last 30 plus years. I'm seeing this. I mean, there is a severe lack of this Sanyam, this logical reasoning. And that's why people already have something in mind, and now they are just busy trying to prove it. For what? Okay, I mean, do you forget the seva? I mean, instead of this, they are causing more destruction. I'm just using the Mahabharata dating as an example, but that happens in every day, whether you are working into healthcare, whether you are working into businesses, whether you are working with supply chains, finding solutions and so on. And this can be very profitable if you try to bring this profitable. So Tarka Shastra, the logical reasoning, drawing a logical inference, that inference were there. Yes, we need all three. but it's a prerogative of a mind, because if the mind is not in the right place, we will reach the wrong conclusion. Okay. Now seva is also going with a sharir, although I have written on the other side there. Okay. Because see, actual physical act of doing something, like going and opening and reading a book, which is we do with our senses, right? Either we are listening to like an audio book, or we are reading the book with the eyes, and then we have to interpret and it goes inside. That is done with the body, right? So seva, a service, is done with the body, so that's a sharir. Now, to do service, do we need a mind, and do we need a buddhi? Of course we need an intellect, and we need our psyche. But the predominance to actually get things done, go from one place to another, is done by the body itself. Like, so that's a sharir. Okay. So think of a data extraction, classification. Yeah, it will be done by sharir. Inference, drawing inference, is done by the mind. And actually solving the problem, right? So you are working with the data to solve a certain problem. How do you come up with the potential solutions? That is the, again, you need all three of them, but that is the prerogative of a buddhi. So that's why I'm just putting, again, many people would know design thinking as a discipline, design thinking as a framework. Okay. So that's the prerogative, or that's the forte of a buddhi. So I said Sanyam, Seva, Satya, and Vijnana Buddhi says what? My highest priority is to the truth, even if it is bitter. So there is that Hindu triangulation of Sanyam, Seva, Satya. They are directly connected to Mana, Sharira, and Buddhi. So Mana is connected with Sanyam. Sharir is connected with the Seva, and Satya is connected with the Buddhi. So mind may make some speculation. So Aditya ji, when we talk of speculation, actually people are putting mind over intellect. Okay, mana over buddhi. And we see these wonderful discussions in Bhagavad Gita, right? The 8 ingredients that we have: bhumi, rapo, nalo, vayu, khamana, buddhi, revacha, ahankara, vimudhatma, bhinna, prakriti, rashtada. So this is like, like a bhelpuri or a pani puri or a whatever ragda patties. This is a mixture. And somebody says, I want it more spicy, I want it medium spicy and less spicy. Similarly, each one of us are built initially, of course, and we can change that configuration based on the sattva, raja, tama balance, and the prominence of which elements out of the 5 elements. Is it the agni, the fire element, that has a prominence in our body, or it is the earth, or it is the water, or it is the like a vayu? Same thing with the mana, buddhi, sharira. Are we focused more on our body? Like, you can see people building 6 packs, and that's good. But if they're only busy doing 6 packs, then there is a challenge. Similarly, somebody who is like doing research, but if they're doing only research, that is also a challenge. So what the Hindu data science is telling you is that Tantra Yukti is important. All the data analysis, collection of a data, all the statistics, all the business knowledge. Yes, it's important. But that is just that one corner of a Tantra Yukti. It's a very physical, it's very obvious, at a very hard material levels. What you need beyond that is a Sanyam, Tarka Shastra, and also the Vijnana Buddhi. Now see how Vijnana Buddhi is connected with the Satya. So Vijnana wants to know the truth. Okay, not so it doesn't care what is its outcome. Now, to make a good use of it, again, we need a control of a mind. So for example, nuclear power, or a just the knowledge of a nuclear chemistry by itself is not good or bad. Okay, and so anytime something can have an application which can be good or which can be bad, it cannot be adhyatma. Okay, it can be vijnan, it can be science. It is science, but it is not adhyatma. Now, to get into that adhyatma, you need the sanyam of a mind. Okay, you need the attitude of a seva, and you should have that inner desire for the truth. And 3 more things I'm going to add, and these are again connected with that sanyam, mana, and that goes to the your shraddha, your conviction, your belief, okay, in the absolute moral code. Ahimsa, satyam, asteya, akama, krodha, lobhata. Okay, so rejecting any deliberate unnecessary violence. That is ahimsa, by the way. Ahimsa doesn't mean no violence. Okay, satyam, truthful, that we saw it. Asteya, not stealing, not that attitude of a I mean, keeping your things to a minimal for a reason, right? But also not stealing things. Okay, not always thinking how can I exploit that other country. No, I mean, you can see that into what happening in world politics right now. If those things are not there, all of your other analysis, like how you want to save the world from global warming, and I mean, or the COVID, it's all useless if you miss that original point of absolute morality, not relative morality. I'm talking of absolute morality, which is one of the foundation of a Hinduism, Hindutva, or Hindu data science, you want to call it. The other one is a achar saishnuta, endurance in conduct. That you because the view of a Hinduism is not limited to one lifetime. Okay, we are perfecting ourselves in an iterative fashion. Now we know that, data scientists know that, we refine our analysis in an iterative fashion. Guess what, we refine ourselves as individuals in an iterative fashion from one lifetime to another. Okay, now some things that we don't see, we have to take it on a leap of faith, just like the way this data analysis is done in a SAS or in a neural network framework. Once you give it, you trust the programmer, you trust the SAS code, and you say, hey, whatever it is spitting out is correct. Of course, you try to verify this. You can verify about reincarnation here too. But it's an endurance in conduct, meaning it's an iterative process, but we never give up, even when we face the failures. That is what is coming from that achar saishnuta, or endurance in conduct, the other foundations of Hinduism or Hindutva or Hindu data science. And the last one there is a vichar swatantriya. You will not find, you may find the top two in some form in other religions of the world. Now, Hinduism is not a religion, but as a dharma, and for a common purposes, for a passport purposes, yes. What is your religion? You have to write Hindu, if it's required. My point is, the bottom thing, the last thing there, vichar swatantriya, you will not find in any other religions of the world. You will not find it. I mean, please go and test it and let me know if you come across another religion other than Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism or Hindutva, which puts huge emphasis on vichar swatantriya, freedom of thought. And why is this important? That's why we have these many darshanas. Okay, that's why Hinduism or Hindutva is a dharma, or in a crude sense, a religion of library and not religion of a book, because of the freedom of thought. That's why we have multiple different darshanas, right? I mean, Shankaracharya saw it one way, and Ramanujacharya saw it another way, Madhvacharya saw it another way, many others, Nimbarka and Vishnu Swami and Vallabhacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then his 6 disciples, Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. You will find Rupa Goswami says something, and his nephew Jiva Goswami does not necessarily agree with Rupa Goswami. I mean, you can see these discussions because of the fundamental principle of the freedom of thought. But why freedom of thought? We should never forget what it is for. It is for the service. It is for the seva of humanity. It is not just humanity. It is for the seva, because humanity, sometimes we think only human beings. No, of every living entities and even non-living entities. Okay, that is the ecology. Okay, environmentalism, that isms that we will talk here. That's why Krishna is saying madbhava sarva bhuteshu. I mean, whatever you are doing, do it, but all the time you are thinking madbhava sarva bhuteshu. In every living and non-living entity, you are seeing me, you are seeing Krishna, you are seeing the Param Tattva. Okay, so freedom of thought is important if you truly want to know the truth. The absolute moral framework is required if you have to use your mind in a proper way, in a balanced way. And the concept of endurance in conduct, that to know that failure is not the end of it, it's just a starting point for another iterative cycle, and therefore continuing with the service. These are the foundations. Now, this is what I call, I think that's it. This is what I call the Hindu data science. Now, again, I'll just summarize and I will stop. Everything that we will study, or we study, and I'm telling you, I'm studying for 20 plus years. I'm teaching it, not just studying it. I teach data science. That to me, and it's very useful. It's very sophisticated. especially with the computers and many new algorithms, and a lot of thought has gone into it, like design thinking and whatnot, Taguchi methods, Lean, Six Sigma, so many other things, right? That is, to me, that is there into the top right hand corner in Tantra Yukti. More what is required, and many times I see from my experience is missing, is that Tarka Shastra and Sanyam and the scientific acumen or Vijnana Buddhi. So with that, Aditya ji, let me stop sharing. So that's our Hindu data science, by the way. Not many people will think that Hindus have a data. Even one of my great influence, Karl Popper, he thinks everything started in Greece, and he's one of my guru, and I'm willing to say, actually, I'm convinced, and I assert that he's dead wrong to think that everything started in Greece. Now, he's absolutely fascinating, but here on this point, he's wrong. He did not bother to study Indian Darshan Shastra. If he would have taken what he did to a totally different height.
Well, I don't want to make fun of your guru, but that's why I'll just say one word. That's why the last name is Popper. So, but with due respects, because you have deep respect for him, but due respects to him. The most of the times, and viewers will agree, and a lot of people are watching right now, the Hindu, the culturally, the word Hindu means backward. And there was a word used by the Indian politicians, the Hindu rate of growth.
Huh.
And it is in the early 80s and early 70s. And I think it starts with the independence also.
Yeah.
That one of the first education minister of India coined that term practically, Hindu rate of growth, just like Hindu terror. And
was it who was that? C.D. Deshmukh?
C.D. Deshmukh, yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Chintamanrao Deshmukh, yeah.
My point
maybe
is
looking at Nehru. Looking at Nehru.
Now, if you look at the rate of growth now, India is rich because of everybody, but predominantly Hindu culture. You can see what happened to Pakistan after it became Islamic. You see that. You see Afghanistan after it became Islamic. You can see that. Now, we're talking only data, no emotional, nothing. Look at Bangladesh. Bangladesh is today richer than Pakistan because they are still, now you will not find a single rich man or rich community Hindu in Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is going to go Pakistan route very shortly. It just came out and again it will go back. It is because of US, it is still functioning, and India. And you see the Hindu, and you see other countries which are flourishing because of Hindus. UAE. UAE, even though it's a Middle Eastern country, but I consider it is run by the Arabs, but European educated Arabs, and they have a deep respect for Indians contributing to it.
Yes, they do. And their currency until very recently was a rupiah,
Rupiah. And now it is whatever they call it.
Dinar. No, what is it now?
Dirham.
Yeah.
Dirham. And look at the Saudi Arabia introducing Mahabharata and Ramayana and opening up their economy for Indian businesses, inviting them. Hindus won't go there without a temple, so they have to build a temple. Abu Dhabi, one of the biggest temples of Hindus in the Middle East. Oman. So wherever Hindus are there, the growth is up. So Hindu rate of growth takes you up. Pakistan, which has killed Hindu population, data shows that. That's what I call Hindu data science now. The data if you look at Pakistan, the Hindu population has been marginalized. They call it Bania. Okay. And Bania means like the guy who is at the mercy of, they are the Kshatriya. So typical caste is still there. Therefore, rightly Saudi Arabia calls them a kafir nation.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that. Good one. Okay.
Yeah, it calls them a kafir country. Yeah. And kafir means every non-Muslim is a kafir, and kafir means there only one result for kafir is either they are killed or beheaded or taxed higher.
So you are saying the Pakistan and residents of Pakistan are not the pure Muslims in the eyes of Saudi Arabia in a way.
That's right. Because they don't want Sharia.
Yeah.
They want India to have Sharia, but not themselves. Because wherever Sharia has gone, that country has become bankrupt.
Yeah.
Look at Afghanistan, the best example in front of you, in the Pakistan.
Correct.
A little bit inching towards Sharia. and the day Taliban takes over, you'll see that. So
Yeah.
the Hindu rate of growth was as fictional as the Sharia brings peace. All the Afghanis are running away from Sharia today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, again, I was going to say the problem is when they talk of Hindu rate of growth, like say if Chintaman Rao Deshmukh said it, of course, looking at I would say a very boring policies of Nehru, possibly. Chintaman Rao Deshmukh was a very bright mind, very well entrenched in a Hindutva. Okay, I mean he had the guts to I don't know if you know this, Adityaji, to in the assembly Nehru's face, he has said you are a dictator, and he resigned. Okay, he resigned. So that is the story of C.V. Deshmukh that some people may know, others may not know. But the problem is the Hindu rate of growth people talk, because again they have a very myopic view of last 100, 200, 300 years when British looted India out of every single thing. And if you go back 1,000, then Islam destroyed it. I mean, they looted the despotic rulers, like the whole Babur, and I don't know, remember all the name, but Humayun, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb, and even for folks afterwards. They were like just totally enjoying their life, didn't care for anyone else, even not the next, they didn't care for their own family members, what to speak of the praja, or the population. So they sucked these resources for their personal pleasure. So if you look at 1,000 years, approximately 1,000 years, it's an extremely myopic view. Now, if you want to see the Hindu rate of growth, people have to read the works of the European, what's his name, Byron, like the Belgium, from Belgium, of the finance expert. When he did analysis going back to, I forgot how many years he went back. And then Angus Madison, which was appointed by the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, because they did not, when Byron came out and said, if you just go back a few hundred years, then China and India were contributing more than 50% of world GDP. I mean, here they just like now, right now, the Hindu and Hinduism, the words, and these guys are rattling, these academics are rattling. That was happening in America when the world, Western world, when Byron's report came. So they commissioned another study of Angus Madison. And actually, Angus, my memory is not, I don't know, but I think Angus Madison even went back further. So instead of just going back for 400, 500 years, they were studying initially the effect of industrial revolution and why certain countries had no industrial revolution. And Byron came and said, hey, guess what? You go back 400, 500 years, and China and India were contributing more than 50% to the world GDP. Grow up. The West did not want to accept that truth. Remember, we talked about the Satya, Sanyam, and Seva. So they commissioned another study by asking Angus Madison. And Angus Madison came up with even a bigger bomb. So the first was a nuclear bomb, the second one came up with a hydrogen bomb or even a neutron bomb. Angus Madison went back for 2,000 years of tracking the history, all the way to the Roman times. And even before, possibly, I don't know what he found there. The data becomes tough as you go back in the past. But when he studied for last 2,000 years, the picture of India and China that emerges is even more glorious than what could be seen, say, 400 years ago. So if somebody wants to know the Hindu rate of growth or Hindutva rate of growth, that they have to study history and see the history did not start with Jesus, and even did not start with the Moses, and did not start with some fakery such as the earth beginning in 4004 BCE, which even likes of Kepler and Newton also believed until their death. I mean, Newton had written one book, and I don't know if it's published, that, what Newton thought, Adityaji, you will love this. This is not to discount all the wonderful things he did with his laws and optics and whatnot. He said, if something is written as a poetry, it cannot be truthful. It cannot be truth. And how much of a contrast that is, because in an Indian context, Kavi and is a Krantadarshi, Kavi is, how beautiful, right? Valmiki is a Kavi and Vyasa is a Kavi. And the Kavi writes the Kavya, the poetry. And Kavi is described, I mean, Nirukta, like Yaska, describes that as a Krantadarshi. The definition of a Kavi is a Krantadarshi. And what does the Krantadarshi means? Like the person who provides the transparency. It's like Joseph Campbell talks about what is the role of a guru, or I will say role of a Kavi, like the realized person like Vyasa and Valmiki, is being transparent to transcendence. Like the gurus or these great sages, they don't become a block in between the truth out there, Satya out there, and you. They become like a lens, they become like a telescope. Okay, they can make it easy for you to see the truth. They can they can magnify the truth for you so that you can see it, you can comprehend it. They can make it easy, but they make it transparent to transcendence. They remain transparent to transcendence. They make the transcendence accessible to you. They're called Krantadarshi, which is one person who makes it transparent. Just imagine, that is the basis of what Kavi is, or a poetry is. And Newton took it 180-degree opposite. So he said, if anything is written as a poetry, it cannot be true. And that was also partly, I wouldn't just put all blame on Newton, because the people have to have their own intellect too. But that is in part also responsible for when the colonialist came to India, and they were totally wowed and rattled by all the super rich library that they saw everywhere. They did not know what to make of it. And so when they saw everything written as a poetry, okay, they just took that Newton's word and saying, hey, this cannot be true. And that's how the mythology, the opposite of Sattology, was born.
Very good points you said, because most of the people are not aware of it. And yesterday I was talking to someone. The Indian rishis and munis, they were all mathematicians, because they, to calculate the astronomical positions requires the knowledge of mathematics.
And they were astronomers, and therefore a very sophisticated mathematician. Yes.
And so they were logicians also. So not just randomly they were writing in emotional state.
Correct.
Like most of the Western philosophical writing I have seen in theories and assumptions. I'm not speculations.
Yeah.
Mental speculations.
Yes.
Not even philosophical, because they don't have anything.
Yeah. Do you know what Ramdas Swami says about that? Jitu ke anumanat se bolane, meaning anything that you say as a pure speculation. Jitu ke anumanat se bolane, vamana praya, titu ke vamana praya tyagane. It is to be considered as equal to vomit.
That's right.
Your speculation. Nishchayatmaka techi bolane pratyase. Only that is your experience. Okay? Experiential learning, experientially validation is what you can trust.
The Western world is all built on presentations, external, all commentaries. They don't follow it. Like if you look at my next book is coming out, The Curse on the Natives. And the amount of, there are only 3 reasons the entire mythology was spread: gold, glory, and God. 3 things. This was the entire basis of colonization.
So what is the name of the book that you're working on?
A Curse on the Natives.
A Curse on the Natives. And what are the 3 things you said? Gold, glory, and God?
Yeah, in that order. Gold.
Yeah, I like that.
Gold, which is for the crown.
Yeah.
Glory for the crown, and God for the church.
And God to get the free labor to work for you.
Sex slaves.
Yeah.
Sex slaves was the main motive.
Yeah,
because they were getting diseases, all the genetical diseases.
Yes.
Due to excessive, they wanted new women, so that the new population is born healthy. So, gold, glory, and God.
Yeah, which is that reminds me of Jared Diamond's what is that book? Guns, Stills, and Germs. Yeah, that is his book. Guns, Still. I forgot. Maybe not in that sequence the way I said, but Guns, Germs, and Steel, or something like that.
Yeah, only one country they all failed: Bharat.
Yes.
Only one country, they all failed.
And possibly the second closest is China.
China.
If you
China,
think.
they
The communism took over, unfortunately. Yes, I agree. Communism took over. But until then, at least, right? Until 1957 or whatever that time frame.
the atrocities they did on Chinese people is unspeakable.
Hmm.
It's the same as South America, but only thing
Yeah.
is China got saved because of dharma, because of
Hmm.
Lhasa temple.
Yeah.
Because Huyen Sang's books are kept on the 7th floor of the Lhasa temple. I saw them.
Yeah. Okay. So outsiders saved China. The Lhasa is the
Outsiders saved China.
outside. Lhasa is outside China. Now China claims is a different story. So outsiders saved China.
Bharat saved China. We have
Bharat
to be
saved
very
China.
clear. Bharat saved China. It's not the other way
This
around.
also needs to be told, in a program like this, because many people don't realize that now they think Tibet and some controversy. No, Tibet was never part of China. So that's the reality of it.
China, anyway, we'll have a separate show on that because of
Yeah.
China. And
Yeah.
thank you so much, Nilesh ji. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And people love what you say, and it is visible on the video views also. And thank you so much for joining, and all of you for joining. And do let us know your feedback on YouTube as well. And join us more next time. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.